if you hadn't heard, Ryan Grimm has a brand new book out. Something about the squad. The squad and something about a revolution is really, and it's not a comedy. I know the title make you think that this is somehow a comedy, but it's not. But within the pages of this book, there are some excerpts, and I'm not sure the excerpt will be shown in the video. There's some excerpts where AOC gives off that she really hates Bernie Bros, and you see in that on the screen right there, it says AOC has privately fretted about the toxicity of Bernie Bros and misogyny within left-wing politics, book reveals, and that is the headline. But let's play the video. I might play it twice. Here we go.
AOC had a much bigger problem with Bernie Bros than we thought. Ryan Grimm has a book called AOC in a Hope for a Political Revolution. AOC in the book complains about how toxic Bernie Bros are and complains about an overall misogyny problem on the left. I'm willing to support Nazis in Ukraine, but men who want healthcare in my country is where I draw the line. And it's a very interesting claim by AOC, considering she threw Me Too under the bus and voted for Tara Reade's rapist and refused to say a word about it. According to AOC, the only worthy rape victims are the rape victims that don't inconvenience the Democratic Party. Tell me more about how I'm the misogynist Bernie Bro, though, AOC. This exposes how AOC was always a shitlib at her core. AOC.
This is such a great point that Nick makes in this video, that she likes to throw around the misogynist thing. And the reason why I use the phrasing throw around is because there is some there is actual misogyny that's going on that you should be calling out, just like if there's actual racism going on. Then there's people that use it as a way to shield them from something. And I believe she's using that here, because if you were all up in arms about misogyny, then why aren't you up in arms about the other misogyny called with Joe Biden and Tara Reade that Nick brings up here? So this is a great point he makes. I'll rewind it from the beginning and we'll start from the beginning here. Let's do it.
AOC had a much bigger problem with Bernie Bros than we thought. Ryan Grimm has a book called AOC in a Hope for a Political Revolution. AOC in the book complains about how toxic Bernie Bros are and complains about an overall misogyny problem on the left. I'm willing to support Nazis in Ukraine, but men who want healthcare in my country is where I draw the line. And it's a very interesting claim by AOC, considering she threw Me Too under the bus and voted for Tara Reade's rapist and refused to say a word about it. According to AOC, the only worthy rape victims are the rape victims that don't inconvenience the Democratic Party. Tell me more about how I'm the misogynist Bernie Bro, though, AOC. This exposes how AOC was always a shitlib at her core. AOC hates the people that she claims she fights for. The entire time, AOC hated organizing and being around the uneducated, misogynistic, poor people. The job of AOC, just as Democrats in the boutique left, is to make left-wing politics as unappealing as possible. That's why AOC in the professional managerial class left tries to tie anti-capitalism with liberal, woke identity politics. And this politics of AOC is exactly why she has an approval rating that is lower than Kamala Harris. The PMC class, like AOC and Ryan Grimm, who wrote this ridiculous book, is here to lead workers off a cliff, and left-wing movements need to avoid them at all costs.
I was murdered. You were murdered. Okay, you obviously weren't murdered because you're alive and you're basically intact. You weren't murdered by...
once again, Nick, with the awesome video. I gotta start making those videos. We gotta start putting them up on TikTok. But here's the headline, everybody. Oops. Right here. AOC has privately fretted about the toxicity of Bernie Bros and misogyny within left-wing politics, book reveals. Let's just read a little bit of the points. AOC was more concerned about the Bernie Bros during the 2020 campaign than previously known. As she endorsing Sanders, she privately fretted that they were very, very damaging for him. A new book on the squad also details her concerns with the misogyny I saw within the left. So, I mean, this person has no shame. Let's read a little bit of it, not all. Democratic Rep AOC had more concerns about Bernie Bros than previously known. According to a new book, during the 2016 Democratic primary, supporters of Hillary Clinton popularized the notion that Senator Bernie Sanders were disproportionately aggressive, misogynistic white males. Let's continue. Sanders and his supporters have long viewed the characterization as unfair, pointing to the polling and election results show the Vermont senator performing well amongst a variety of groups in both the 2016 and 2020 presidential campaign. During the 2020 primary, the New York Congresswoman publicly acknowledged some of those concerns, even as she told the host of The View that Sanders works very hard to handle the issue. But according to reports to Ryan Grimm in Ryan Grimm's book, The Squad, AOC and the Hope of a Political Revolution, that's the title that I was laughing at earlier. In the hopes of a political revolution, the New York Congresswoman thought the idea had a lot of merit and that it was hurting Sanders' prospects. It's funny how now that she's part of the establishment, she's rolling out one of the most overused establishment talking point lines against a particular group of progressives. It's funny that that's coming out, that's the case. Now, how I see it is that if she's not a CIA plant, which is a lot of people actually believe, if she's not that and she actually was changed and she was a good person in the beginning, and now she's sort of changed. Okay, I guess that would speak to her not feeling this way at the time, and now she's feeling this way. Now that I look back on it, yeah, that was the case. But if you're saying you felt this way at the time, that just tells me you've been a sellout sitting in waiting. That's what you've been this whole time. And I'll continue to kind of wind this down a little bit here. But according to reporting in Orion Group, I'm sorry, I read that part. And here's another quote. Bernie Sanders have been very, very damaging to him. And it really is frustrating to see and experience. They don't realize how influential they are. It's frustrating to feel like they are hurting him. Ocasio-Cortez said in the midst of the 2020 primary, according to the book. Quote, she also goes on to say, I feel like Warren is scooping up LGBT progressives, women, and progressives of color because of how they isolate. Now, what I actually believe is actually happening here, I don't believe she thought this at the time. What I believe is she's concocted this version of events as a way of going after the people who's going after her over strike breaking, the people who are going after her over the dome funding, dome vote, the people who are going after her over the funding of Ukraine. Now, understand who the messenger is, which is Ryan Grimm. When does Ryan Grimm show up? When it's time to Captain Save a politician. So it's very curious to me that this new information is being delivered by this particular messenger. What types of message does this particular messenger delivers? Establishment messages. She also worried that the behavior of Sanders supporters were forcing an unnecessary choice between class analysis and race analysis through their behavior, not such policy. Now, my God, forcing an unnecessary choice between class analysis and race analysis. You mean to tell me that's coming from a socialist? Why don't you tell me you're not a socialist without saying you're not a socialist? Let me blow this up and go to that part again. Forcing an unnecessary choice between class analysis and race. Scroll on. I don't. Yeah, let me read a little more. But then, an influential politician in her own right, her endorsement was seen as critical as Sanders and Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts competing to claim the progressive mantle during the 2020 race. Ocasio-Cortez ultimately endorsed Sanders. So what I believe this is, and maybe the book is doing this, the book in this article is whitewashing AOC to be presented to the establishment. Like, forgive me for all these things. Yeah, I did this. Yeah, I was doing this with Bernie Sanders, but forgive me for all of those things. And that's what I see this as. And I mean, and I'm only saying the book because this is from the book. So if this is the book is saying, maybe that's what the book is about. I'll read this last part. The woman later said it was not smart for Sanders' campaign to publicize what appeared to be an endorsement from controversial podcaster Joe Rogan, saying the Rogan alienated so many people and platforms, alt-right figures. That last quote solidifies to me, and the fact that it's being delivered by Ryan Grimm. This is an establishment message. Ryan Grimm is whitewashing AOC for her future as an establishment figure. So it's the other way around. Just discussing, but that is what Ryan Grimm does, and this is what he's known for, and it just looks like he's continuing to do that